Hello, I'm meteorologist Vanessa Murdock. Welcome to Climate Change, Protecting Our Planet, a special dedicated to understanding the perils we face as our Earth warms and the work being done to combat and adapt to our changing world. We begin with a conversation with climate experts from around the region. I asked them to talk about the latest projections. Bigger storm surges. More intense rainfall more often, extreme heat that lingers, and more. Climate change risk is greater than imagined, says Dr. Christian Branion.
There are going to be extreme weather events that happen sequentially. So you can imagine a heat wave followed by a power outage, followed by a tropical storm or a hurricane.
Branion co-chairs the New York City panel on climate change. The panel provides up-to-date climate science to help the city prepare and become more resilient. He shared updated numbers with us.
Since the early 1900s, New York City has warmed about 4 degrees Fahrenheit already.
The panel expects temperatures to keep climbing. By the 2050s, 4 to 6 degrees warmer.
A huge concern for us here in New York City is the increased prevalence of extreme heat days.
An increase from 17 extreme heat days to 2, possibly 3 times that many by the 2050s. The mercury will rise higher too. Extreme heat disproportionately affects Black New Yorkers and claims as many as 350 lives a year in the Big Apple. Sea level rise, another serious threat.
By the 2030s, we're expecting about 7 to 11 inches of additional sea level rise.
By the 2050s, 14 to 19 inches, and by 2100, 30 to 50 inches.
By late century, you might expect flooding during high tide in places where you see it now almost daily.
On Long Island, Freeport boasts elevated roadways and homes. The move started a decade ago to combat rising sea level.
With the new predictions, they may have to do it all over again.
Adrian Esposito, executive director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment, says over the last 80 years, sea level in the Northeast rose by 13 inches.
That number is accelerating now because of climate change.
Esposito says on the island, rising water means more flooding and more saltwater intrusion into the drinking water supply.
In a worst-case scenario, by the end of this century, everything south of Merrick Road or Montauk Highway is going to be flooded or underwater.
More heat, problematic here too.
More mild winters and more intense heat in the summer.
Mild winters mean more ticks, more mosquitoes. Esposito worries more disease too.
The Long Island Sound has increased in water temperature by 5 degrees over the last 20 years. Winter flounder have died off, lobsters have left, and more invasive species have come in to change the whole ecology of Long Island Sound.
For the island, the city, and the Garden State, a warmer Atlantic presents challenges.
What we've seen is about a 3-degree rise in water temperatures during the summer since 1985.
Dr. Anthony Broccoli, director of Rutgers Climate Institute, says warmer water adds more fuel for tropical storms to feed off of. Mix stronger storms with rising sea level, and it's a recipe for disaster.
We've seen a rise of about 18 inches over the course of the last 100 years or so.
Broccoli says Jersey is a hotspot for sea level rise because the land is sinking.
By roughly 2050, we would foresee an additional roughly 1 to 2 feet of sea level rise.
Rise by 2100 depends on human behavior, with low emissions 2 to 4 feet, high emissions as much as 6 feet.
Over the last 125 years or so, temperatures in New Jersey have risen by about 4 degrees Fahrenheit.
By 2100, with low emissions 2 to 4 degrees warmer, with high emissions 4 to 10 degrees.
Under a high emission scenario, there's one estimate that indicates that much of New Jersey would get between 10 and 25 days a year with triple-digit heat.
Now, century mark and above is rare. Warmer air can hold more moisture, but what goes up must come down. Expect more frequent rounds of heavy rain across the region.
By some estimates, maybe as much as 20 to 25% heavier by the end of this century.
Some declare our current situation a climate crisis, but there is hope.
Unexpected and fruitful collaborations give me a lot of hope.
Thaddeus Pulowski, Managing Director of Center for Resilient Cities and Landscapes at Columbia University, calls out the Billion Oyster Project, which builds reefs using oyster shells with the help of students and volunteers. Youth activists demand climate change be prioritized, another source of inspiration. And
I wouldn't want to discount the importance of education as well. I feel like education, and it's not just like the same kind of top-down learning, like I feel like we're doing a lot of learning with young people, like together as we manage these crises.
I think that 10 years ago, people didn't believe climate change is real. Now people understand it is real and it's serious.
This is a true test for humanity about whether we're actually as civilized as we think we are.
I asked all four experts how we combat climate change today. The common response is we must move away from fossil fuel consumption as a society. Now, efforts to make this happen in progress already off the coast of Long Island, with New York's offshore wind farm development. My colleague Carolyn Gussoff takes a